Alright, so today I decided to go revisit the most popular video that I have on my channel, which has 10,000 views and generated $200. So in this video, I talked about why every job feels temporary and the decline of job security. I put the transcript of that into ChatGPT, and it gave me the title, Why Are Jobs So Temporary Now? The Rise of Disposable Work. And I added disposable worker. So in it, I talked about my 3 years at Evil Corp and what it taught me about long-term employment, and that is that it's not real. The second week that I was at this job, they had a major reduction in workforce. And at that point, this was my first senior manager. He's like, Millennials team, I didn't want you to see this. But people were leaving by the dozens. They were just walking out because without warning, the night before, corporate said all of these people don't need to be here. We're shifting their positions to other offices or online. Even the HR manager got let go without being told that day. She was the one that had to organize all of this in in connection with the corporate office. And the next day after she was done, she was told that she didn't work here either. The look on that woman's face will never disappear from my memory. Like, how could they do this to me? But it's easy because when it comes to saving money at Evil Corp, everyone is fair game. So we're revisiting the decline of stable careers, and why companies refuse to invest in employees, and how fear and exploitation have become a management tool. Every day that I go to work, I'm in constant fear. For the past 6 weeks, I haven't known whether or not I was going to arrive and they were going to change the locks, or I was going to arrive and then soon my boss would show up, fire me, and then get back in his car and go back to working 100% remote. Because that's what happened to the last senior manager, and I imagine that's what's going to happen to the current senior manager. Because when you've had almost, 9 managers in an area over 9 years and they're all gone, the average lifetime expectancy for a senior manager in my area right now is less than a year. Usually, at 3 months, they're already looking to get rid of you. That's what's happened to the last three. 3 months. You know why that is? Because there's no training whatsoever. They expect you to show up on day one and be able to do the job whole. There are no trainings in this company. And the reason for that is simple. Training wastes time and money. Why would you do that? So, with that said, let's get into the script. Back then, when I made this video, let's see how old this video is. So I made this video on October 11th, and it has exactly 10,873 views. At that time, I wasn't making videos like I am now. So let's see what we have here that's based exactly on that transcript. Another rejection. It's like they don't even care if you need the job. It doesn't matter how much you try or how desperate you are. Jobs used to mean stability, a chance at a future. Now, it's like you're disposable, just another cog they toss aside when it's worn out. That's exactly how you feel. I've been applying to jobs on Indeed now for over 3 months on a regular basis. Not a single call back, not an email, nothing. In fact, today I was talking to a girl at the salon this morning, and I asked her about why she doesn't work here very much anymore. She told me she has a consulting job now that she graduated from university, and I told her that she was very lucky to have a high-paying job out of university as a Gen Z. And she just looked at me and said, most of my friends are unemployed or working at McDonald's. That's where you end up. That's where I ended up. In fact, I told her this today. It's like after I got out of ASU, the only job I could find was working at Walmart. And because it was so hard to find a job, I ended up staying there for 2.5 years. The humiliation of working in retail as an educated person isn't lost on just me. It's normal. I've had 10 jobs in the past 3 years. 10. Retail, food service, cleaning houses, you name it. Every time it's the same story. They want you to work harder, faster, for less. No training, no support, and definitely no benefits. And if you don't smile enough while they're grinding you down, you're out. When I started working my current job and I had to wear that white shirt with the red tie every day, and I was told to smile at least 100 times a day. And I couldn't smile. It was minimum wage. It was doing everything from doing rounds of security, manning the front desk, giving tours, cleaning the bathrooms. It was every job because this company, shortly after I started, decided that they were going to get rid of their janitors. So there's not a single person during the day that can clean up a mess. When something happens during the day, any employee, whether that's an office worker, an educator, anyone has to go to the janitor's closet and get a mop and bucket in order to clean things up. I have seen managers, I have seen directors, I have seen presidents cleaning up unmentionable stains on the ground because they decided that it was too expensive to have janitors working there. And this is a large office building with hundreds of people there at any given time. And yet here you have the regular employees, the office manager out there with a bucket. And you know what? The number one requirement is you have to smile while you work because they don't want your customers seeing you frowning while you're cleaning up, God only knows, off the floors. Smiling to me is the biggest, oh God, F you to the proletariat that I can ever imagine. Not only do they want you to wear uncomfortable clothes that you can't afford, they have a dress code, they have an employee handbook that they refer to. Anytime HR talks to you, it's not like they talk to you like a human being, right? We know that HR stands for anti human resources. So whenever you get in trouble, they send you an email and they quote something from the employee handbook. They'll tell you to go to page this and this and this, and this is why you're getting in trouble. They don't even care about your human card because if you're this disposable to them, they're always looking for a reason to get rid of you. You know, that feeling when you're in an interview and you can just tell they've already decided you're not what they want. You're not good enough. Whatever that even means. And if you're lucky enough to get the job, it's just until they find someone cheaper or until they don't need you anymore. My current job, they posted every 10 to 15 days for months. And I kept applying to it because it was minimum wage, it looked entry level. I needed a job that wasn't working in retail. And when I got into that job interview, they were very blunt with me. You're not what we're looking for. But the past few guys that have applied to this job have either worked at Amazon or at Kroger's. They weren't getting anyone better. So when they finally accepted me to do the job, they was like, well, let's see how long this guy lasts. Because everyone is temporary at the bottom. When I worked in retail, it wasn't uncommon for your coworkers to have between 5 and 10 jobs just in the past year. Because they're working at one restaurant, they're working across the street from that restaurant. It's not like these people have transportation like the lady I saw this morning at Kroger's. She walks for 5 miles to get to her job. I've seen her walk from the rural and southern Kroger's all the way to the one in Chandler. And I'm like, oh my God, this lady is so broke that she can't afford a bus ticket every day. And I was looking at her today while I was checking out, and I'm just like, everything about her looked poor. Her clothes, the expression on her face, her worn out hat, her worn out shoes. You could tell this lady has nothing. She doesn't have a thin dime to her name. And while I was thinking about her, I was also thinking about the guy that I saw coming out of the bank this afternoon, a little while ago, and how people say, "Oh, he's dressed smart, right? You're really smart looking in that suit." What does that mean? It means that you are wearing a uniform of a person who doesn't have to ask, "Do you want fries with that?" When you're dressed smart for work, it means you look good. And to look good to our current society means a tie and a suit for men. And women have a lot more freedom on what they can wear to work. But for men, it's business. It's not business casual, it's business. The tie, the suit, the dress pants, the dress shoes. Business casual is probably one of the worst things to ever happen to the workplace if you ask any boomer. So, all right, moving on. And don't even get me started on temp agencies. They'll send you somewhere awful for 3 days and then you'll get a call. Sorry, they don't want you back. And you're like, what did I do wrong? But you didn't do anything. They just didn't care. This is another thing that I have seen in the comments is temp agencies are notorious for just being a mill for workers. You apply to the temp agency, they may keep you on for a day, 2 days, maybe 3 days a week, but you're not stable. You don't know where you're going to be working that day. And it becomes a job that just you dread being a temp. And I worked for a couple of agencies like that, recruiting agencies that would hire temps for large corporations. And I remember the last one I worked for because I had to send my timesheet. I had to fax my timesheet to the recruiters. And I was like, why? What year is this that we're still faxing time cards? But that's the way their system was set up. And at the end of my contract, they didn't renew it. So I lost my job. It was that simple. They when you get to the end of a contract that's to hire for a temp agency, they make that decision, and usually what they do is they'll tell the agency that they want someone else because they didn't like your attitude. There's something about you that they didn't like, and they don't. This is a right to work state. So when you get fired, they don't have to give you any reason for why you don't work there anymore. You just don't work there anymore. Everywhere you look, there are help wanted signs, but the truth, these jobs don't want you. They want someone who will work for scraps with no complaints, no expectations, and no future. They'll take your time, your energy, your hope, and give you just enough to keep you coming back the next day. It didn't used to be like this. My grandma worked at the same place for 20 years. She had a pension, vacation, even a retirement party. Me, I can't even get a lunch break. Forget benefits or a career path. Those are for people who matter. But what about us, the people who keep the world running while barely holding on ourselves? I've said this so many times. Jobs today aren't careers. When there is no job security for you at any job that you go to, there are no career oriented jobs. And that's for that same reason that I brought up on many occasions. Companies treating employees as disposable with no room for growth or development. This in turn means that they have 100 to 150% turnover rate every year. And the reason for that is every time they get a new worker, there's no benefits, there's no pay increases, there's no investment on the part of the corporation. They don't want any investment. They don't want to give raises every year. I'm a perfect example of that. 3 years with no raise, and yet prices have skyrocketed on everything. 3 years ago, I was doing a lot better than I am with what I'm currently making. But as everything has progressively gotten more and more expensive, it chips away at everything that you try to buy to make your life more comfortable. Everything is more expensive. And you're just like, well, if they're not going to pay me as inflation goes up, Do they expect me to stay? The answer is simple to that question. Absolutely not. They don't want workers to stay. That's why they make their lives so uncomfortable. Because the more uncomfortable you are, the more likely that you're only going to stay 3 to 6 months. That's it. That's the shelf life of the proletariat right now. 3 to 6 months. Anything more than that, and you might start sticking your hand out because you can't afford to live. In fact, these barely survivable pay right now is laughable. So let's move on. They call us lazy, entitled, and unmotivated, but the truth is we're tired. Tired of being told to work harder when there's no reward at the end. Tired of a short-term gigs that go nowhere. Tired of being disposable in a system that only values profit. So what do we do? Do we just keep playing this game, hoping things will change, or do we start asking the hard questions? Why are jobs so temporary now? Who benefits from keeping us unstable? And what happens when people like me, and maybe like you, start demanding more? When people start demanding more, more people get laid off. That's been my experience with every low level job that I've ever had. You mention the word strike or union or worker party or a rising up and asking for more, and corporations instantly respond by telling you that they don't have the money. Yet your CEO is making $20 million a year while you make $20,000 a year. And they have the audacity to tell you that they don't have it. What does that tell the worker? It means that you don't matter and you are a 100% disposable piece of crap. Again, you're the toilet paper of the corporations. They wipe their rear ends with you, and then you go in the toilet soiled. And if you don't like the way you smell, well, guess what? That's the smell of the proletariat being disposable. The pandemic taught us how disposable people were and how despicable the corporations were. Because during that time, they knew that corporate profits were in danger, especially in the food industry, that somehow became workers that were not allowed to stay home. All the other workers in our society were allowed to work from home, but those people who were deemed essential, or as I prefer to call them, disposable, were not allowed to stop working. They had to work. And to me, it shows a certain amount of cruelty that's built right into the system, that they knew that it was dangerous for workers to go to work. And these were people that couldn't afford health insurance. The people that became essential were the workers that didn't even have essential benefits. They didn't have benefits, they didn't have work stability, and they had no way of getting out of the way of getting sick. I mean, I don't know how many people I know aren't here that I used to know that worked at grocery stores because they had no choice. And when it came to those same workers getting sick, they were told that you're not supposed to talk about it. Keep coming to work, but don't tell anyone. That was the strategy at the Kroger's right across the street from my house. If you get sick, just keep working. Because guess what? You don't have health benefits, so you can't see a doctor. Most people that ended up in the emergency room were at the end. They were getting tubed. Once you got tubed as a poor person, one of two things was going to happen. Either you were going to bite it, or the medical debt was going to ruin your life. There was no way out. There were two clear paths. One led to salvation, and the other one led to damnation. That's actually pretty good. Anyhow, I'm going to cut the video there. I'm pretty sure this video isn't as good as the original. I didn't watch the original because it's old, and I probably put it together while I was uh, wondering whether or not I was going to be able to come back on YouTube to where I was, because I'm about to hit 3,000 subscribers, but back then I couldn't have imagined having this many people watching the channel.